Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the CCS Season 7 Selection Show, presented by the Sideline Sports Network. I'm your host, Nation Rail, joined by co-host Somber for this season selection process and the selection show. It's so exciting to be here. What a season it's been, and there's now time to go crown a 7th national champion here at the Collegiate Conference Series.
Some type of crazy, wacky storyline to fall out through the bracket. And I see a couple that are brewing already, as later on we'll get into the selection and see those 64 teams that will be competing for the national championship here in season 7. But yeah, it's been a great season. There's been a lot of upset, intrigue, drama throughout it. And now we get to cap things off with one final bracket.
Yeah, I think the biggest, crazy storyline this season for me is obviously what happened in Columbia, Missouri. And you look at Missouri and what their expectations were going into this season. You have that same roster that went to a Final Four just a couple months ago that took Akron the distance, which almost had Akron on elimination for the first time ever. And again, Akron Gold are 4-time MAC tournament champions. We'll ask that question later. Can Akron repeat for a 4th time? But I think now you look at the season that Missouri's had. They lost Bubs. That roster lost in the SEC semifinal. What are the expectations going forward? Can this roster compete at the top of the league?
I think right now you're going into this as let's compete the best that we can and try and reset for spring. I don't know if that program has plans currently to get a replacement in for spring, or if they're confident in their Bubs replacement currently and they're going to go back to recruiting and try for fall of 2026. But we'll see. I think right now with the players on that roster, it is compete to the best that you can, get what you can in terms of results. But I think that obviously, Bubs was not necessarily the like hard carry or anything of that team. It's not like they're in shambles. It's still a pretty decent roster, but you do take a step back with losing Bubs on that roster. And I think that now going from being, the only team that could take down and stop a 4-peat from Akron Gold, they're now looking to just do what they can to make it as far as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, for me, to answer my own question, we've always tried to bring in top talent to make the league better at the top. And, we always have said, okay, we brought in this team. Is that too much for Akron to handle? The answer is always no. And I think the answer is still no. And I think Akron has a high shot of repeating. But again, as we know it, it's single elimination. Anything can happen. That's why we play the games. And I'm super excited. I've looked at the bracket a little bit. I'll get into more thoughts later as I take a look at the bracket myself, because I haven't even really gotten to analyze a lot of these matchups yet. But I am excited, and I haven't gotten to take too much time looking at it. But I am, excited to get through this and watch these games happen this week and next week. But I'm super stoked. Again, my bracket, it's going to have Akron winning. I think Akron will win, but again, it's going to be super close. I expect, good runs from Florida, a good run from NIU. They're on a hot streak right now. I expect a really good run out of Colorado with the work they've done lately. I think Arizona and Arizona State can make it far. Obviously, Ball State's got a deep run ahead of them. Charlotte and South Carolina are 2 teams to keep an eye out for as well. So I'm excited to see, how this bracket shakes out.
Yeah, me too. I got to take a peek a little bit and just kind of gut reaction. I can see that there are going to be some heavy contenders. I think that our quarterfinals is going to be one of the more interesting quarterfinals that we've had, just given any possible upsets that may happen in round 1. But again, I think I'm in the same boat as you. Akron Gold is still kind of the clear-cut favorite here. There's maybe 2 teams that I would have faith that in a semifinals or grand finals could take some games off of Akron and make them sweat a little bit. But at the end of the day, sweating a little bit is not the same as being contenders against Akron Gold. I think that Akron Gold is still kind of the clear-cut favorite here, especially with that blow to Mizzou, losing Bubs this late in the season.
Absolutely. And, again, it's tough to win, here in CCS, obviously, and, we'll get into that here in a minute, but it's tough. And it's a gauntlet, like I said earlier, it's win or go home. You're fighting for everything all at once. And it's tough, and I know how hard it is for these teams to get into the latter parts of those best of sevens and have to clutch up at the end. But it's going to be a lot of
Mhm.
fun. It's this week starting on Wednesday night. There will be no games tomorrow, so everyone will have at least 24 hours to prepare for the opening round. We'll go through next Tuesday, and the next Friday afternoon from 3 to 6 Eastern, you'll see the round of 32. The next Saturday, you'll see the round of 16 and the Elite 8, followed by your championship and Final Four on Sunday. So I'm excited for this season to come to a close. It's been a long one. I'm super stoked. And I've already settled in the Discord a little bit, but season 8 starting February 1st, $500 in pricing. We're running it back for the spring.
Yeah, this is going to be an amazing way to cap off the fall. I know that we're getting into the nitty gritty part of this season and seasons elsewhere in lots of other leagues, but I think that this is going to be a great way to cap things off. It will kind of also be a league shakeup. I think that towards the end of the season, before the conference championships, there was a little bit of uncertainty where teams were going to lie kind of in the power rankings. I know that we haven't really had time as a way or as a committee to come out with rankings, but I still would have felt like it's really hard to rank teams right now. Hopefully this gets us a better idea going into the spring with any new faces, as well as kind of having a little bit of a reset, because like I said, this has been a pretty eventful season so far. There's been a lot of shakeup, there's been a lot of new faces, there's been players that have come in and rosters that have come in that we didn't really rank properly or really see what they were going to be able to do, and they've caused a lot of spotlight to be shown on them. I think in particular Colorado. I know Colorado kind of had seemingly a fall off in CCS, but it seems like they might be back, and especially after at the beginning of this season they were saying, hey, this is just our temp roster, wait for the spring. If this is your temporary roster, I'm very keen to see what Colorado has in store for us for the spring. But yeah, there's going to be lots of situations like that. There's going to be a lot of situations of teams who have performed well and are only going to be better in the spring. So this is just one more stepping stone to the next and biggest and better thing coming down the line.
Absolutely, and I'm excited. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm super stoked to get this thing underway. And for me, again, as a high seed, I'm expecting South Carolina to go on a deep run. They're a team that you're gonna want to watch night in and night out. And you mentioned Colorado. Their seeding isn't necessarily Cinderella slippers esque, but I expecting Colorado to have a deep run. Despite how difficult that side of the bracket is, I think they have it in them to make a deep run. But I'm excited. I'm really curious to see who's going to put on the Cinderella slippers this season. There's always somebody that does it. And we've never had a 15 or 16 seed win in tournament history. We've had one 14 seed claim victory. That was Texas over Iowa State a year ago. That doesn't even feel like it was that long ago, but it's been 3 seasons now since that's happened, and I'm super excited. But without further ado, I think it's time to get into the CCS Season 7 selection show.
Let's get to it. I'm super excited to see these matchups and to bring you guys what the next few weeks look like here. So let's get things kicked off with the Midwest region, Nation.
Well, at number one, the number one overall seed in the CCS championships is none other than 3-time defending national champions Akron Gold.
Who would have guessed it? The number one seed out of the Midwest. They run the region. They run the league. Akron Gold. They are coming in as our first team revealed, taking on VCU, number 16 seed in this portion of the bracket. And congratulations to VCU. You have had one heck of a season. Your reward is playing the 3-time defending national champion.
Yeah, that is a rough shake here for, again, VCU, who again's at 16. It's tough. I mean, you win the A-10 tournament for the first time ever in program history. You enter the tournament with number one Akron. Your Dayton took on Akron as the A-10 champion 2 seasons ago. There was 0 success in that series. I'm expecting that to be eerily similar. Although VCU did look good against Dayton, I'm just not sure that there's really much of a chance to go to battle with Akron.
Yeah, again, there's very few teams in this bracket that I think could even make Akron sweat a little bit. This is Akron's league. They've ran it for the last 3 seasons. They're more than likely going to run it this season. VCU, if you pull something off here, I'll videotape myself eating a shoe and post that on socials for your guys' enjoyment.
Absolutely. Well, moving forward at 8 in the Midwest region, it's the Bulldogs Louisiana Tech Conference USA Championship game appearance, followed by a loss to Kennesaw State. The Bulldogs received an 8 from the committee. They're right next door to a second round game with Akron.
Louisiana Tech, I know in the summer last season, they were a team that did not make the cut, but with the expanded format and them also now kind of stepping up in the playoffs. I know last season they had a lackluster playoff run, but I'm glad to see them here. I think that they can cause some damage and be a good challenger in the round of 32 for Akron if they do make it there.
We actually got to see the round one opponent in action against LA Tech earlier on in the non-conference. It's number 9, Northern Illinois, who they played in the Sideline Sports event. That one went to Game 5. I'm expecting a deep series here, and NIU's going to, make them have to work for a win. That's a really good game at the 8-9 range of Northern Illinois at number 9.
Absolutely. 8-9. I think that NIU is going to be a team that is catching heat late in the season. They seemingly do it at least the last 2 out of the 3 seasons. They've been able to be a round 1 entry, cause some type of upset, make it to the round of 32, and make some noise. I think that, especially given their performance last season against Florida in that big upset game, they could be another team that could sneak in a few off of Akron Gold. They could take them 2-6 and make them, a little nervous to go through that second round. But either way, Louisiana versus Northern Illinois going to be a great matchup between the two teams, let alone either one of them making it to the next round and being able to face off against Akron.
I mean, again, it's going to be a good game. I think, LA Tech and NIU always are fairly competitive in terms of the tournament. So I'm excited to see, who can come out on top of that one. But moving forward, at number 4 in the Midwest, it is the Hoosiers of Indiana with the top 4 finish in the Big Ten, a quarterfinal exit to Illinois, who went on to get to the final, upsetting number 1 Maryland. And Indiana has had quite this season. I think it's no shock that they're up top at the 4 range.
Yeah, absolutely. Indiana has been a huge riser. I remember early season just kind of having some question marks around the team. They've answered every single question that I've had in this squad. Not just their results and their performance here in CCS, but nationally as well in the CRL brackets. I know that they received some top 30 votes in the most recent colleague poll, and I know that they were also in the top 48 for colleague as well. So they are a formidable roster. I think that they're going to be able to make a run, and they are a team that Akron should be kind of prepping for out of this Midwest region. I would expect them and maybe 2 of the upcoming teams yet to be revealed to be kind of your biggest challenges to get through into the semifinals out of this region.
And I saw a comment earlier that said they're not sure they're in, but they think they're out. But at number 13, there's none other than the North Carolina Tar Heels. Will take on Indiana at the 4 seed line. 4-13, Indiana takes on North Carolina.
Shout out Fnatic, man. I know them. They were in chat saying, I don't know if we are making it in. We had some rough results, but hey, you had the season that you had, and it was good enough to get you here. The 13th seed, unfortunately, a better season would have netted you a better matchup than Indiana, but you got to work with what you're given. And right now you are in to the round of 64. You're going to be able to battle it out against a very tough Indiana squad. And I'm going to be very much looking forward to this matchup.
Yeah, North Carolina picked up wins, but they had to. Didn't lose any too miserable, games they couldn't afford to lose, and they played a lot of top teams in the ACC close, and it was enough to award them a bid to the national championship bracket. They're a 13th seed, which is, again, much better than being awarded Akron, who went on to win the whole thing last summer. So I think they're more than pleased with Indiana compared to Akron. But moving forward, at number 5, it is the Tigers of Clemson, ACC tournament champions.
Clemson, they are another team that, much like Indiana, I had question marks around them. I'm not going to lie. I did not know how to feel about this Clemson roster going forward. I knew that Enzo was going to be a huge addition, but I did not know how the roster around him was going to shake out. They have had their struggles. They've had their difficulties, but they are seemingly finding it out at the right time here in fall as all these leagues are starting to wrap up. Clemson, they are going to be a team to fear. I think that they should be making it past this round, and if they go and face off against either Indiana or North Carolina, in my pick, it probably will be Indiana, but North Carolina will make that interesting. I think that Clemson could find themselves into a top 16 here. They have the offensive firepower, but it's going to be, can you make sure that your defense and your stamina holds? Because like you said at the top of this bracket reveal, the best of 7s is can you leg it out? Do you have the stamina to go? I think if Clemson finds their way to some extra stamina in these series, they're going to be able to make a deep run here.
Yeah, I think it's Clemson and Akron in the Sweet 16. next Saturday, but we'll have to wait and see as Clemson takes on number 12. UNC Wilmington, CAA tournament champions for the first time in program history. The Seahawks are in the championships. They'll take on number 5 Clemson.
And I already see Masao and Nate in chat. They're gonna be having a little bit of chirping back and forth. We got South Carolina taking on North Carolina, regional matchup here. Familiar opponents as well, being in the Carolinas. UNC Wilmington, they've been on the rise. I will have to say, they are looking better and better. But again, I think that Clemson just has a much higher floor than what Wilmington brings. So Clemson, even if they're not fully locked in to start off a series, this is going to be very tough for UNC Wilmington going forward.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough road. I mean, but again, upsets can happen. I feel like this is a real range of the bracket where maybe North Carolina or UNCW pull it off. We'll have to wait and see. We're moving forward down to the bottom side of our Midwest region, starting off at number 2, the Big Ten champions, Purdue.
Purdue is one of the teams that I alluded to earlier, in addition to Indiana, that Akron Gold should be game planning for. This is going to be a matchup that you see potentially in the quarterfinals. Them and one other team are the favorites out of this portion of the Midwest to make their way through to the quarterfinals. They're going to be a tough opponent going through this entire bracket. But again, Purdue, it was the question of how are they going to perform without Enchanted, and the question was answered with a pretty quick "we'll be just fine."
I mean, they didn't even play with Enchanted last season in the tournament. I mean, I feel like they've answered a lot of our questions. They didn't win the Big Ten. Maryland went 8-0 and beat Purdue earlier on, but again, they got revenge and they won the tournament. I mean, that's all you can ask for at the end of the day for Purdue in the postseason, is just go out there and win. And they did just that. They'll take on 15-seeded UC Santa Barbara.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is going to be a similar conversation to be had against or with Akron Gold versus VCU. UC Santa Barbara, runners up in their conference championship. Congratulations. That's one heck of a season from you guys. Your reward is now to play Purdue. So they're going to have a very, very tough round 1, to say the least.
It's tough. I mean, again, we talk about these tournament games, and as we know, anything can happen. You can never 100% pencil in a win for anybody at this point in the season. Everyone's playing their best Rocket League. A lot of these teams are conference champions for a reason, or making deep runs in their conference tournaments. They're all really good. I'm excited to see how it all plays out. But moving forward down to number 7, for the first time in program history, the Red Raiders of Texas Tech are tournament bound.
Texas Tech has had an interesting season, to say the least. I'm glad that they're here. I'm glad that they're ranked this highly. I would like to see what they can do with multiple best of 7s under their belt. But this is going to definitely be a team to keep your eye on, because they can either be one of our Cinderellas through the bracket, or they could be a round 1 exit. This team has been a little up and down. Very strong start to the season. But again, I'm going to be keeping my eyes over on the Red Raiders.
On the round 1 award, number 10, the Dragons of Drexel.
And I feel like this is probably a fitting matchup for talking about up and down. Drexel has been very up and down, to put it nicely, throughout CCS this season. And again, I think that Drexel, if they do make a run here, it's not as much of a Cinderella story as it would be for Texas Tech. And it's their first time in program history being here. Drexel, they're familiar with this bracket, with this tournament, and they're also familiar with making deep runs. So I would not be surprised if we see a late season lock in here from Drexel, but an interesting matchup to say the least.
Drexel dropped to number 6 Pittsburgh when last season's opening round, and they had a couple of scary game 5s throughout conference play, and a couple of losses came as well. They suffered a semifinal exit in the conference tournament, didn't even make the championship game. They lost both their non-conference matches, and it's been a rough season for the Dragons, but a good win over Texas Tech could be a good momentum builder going forward.
Absolutely, and that's what you need to grab here if you're Drexel. Again, up and down season, get a convincing round 1 win, and carry yourself through a little bit of a run here.
I mean, again, you're looking at probably Purdue if you do survive Texas Tech, and Texas Tech just got throttled by Colorado a couple nights ago, so that's automatically a tough game for the Red Raiders. But again, it's tough to win these games, as we say it a lot. But moving along, I mean, this bracket is very top heavy. As number 3 joins the field, it's Maryland.
Again, another one of the you got a game plan for it, because if all things go correctly here, you're going to be facing off against one of Purdue or Maryland if you're Akron Gold in those quarterfinals. And We're not even talking about a bid to the grand finals. You're talking about a bid to the semifinals, and either one of those is going to be a very tough team to get through. And Maryland being here is going to be one of the top dogs coming out of the Midwest.
Yeah, by 0.2 of a point. This is the hardest region of the four in the bracket. Is this region received a 32.06 rating, which is just 0.2 beyond the rest of the field. But at number 14, it is Central Michigan back in their second appearance. The Chips will take on Maryland in an opening round. That seed is wrong. It should be 14, but I just can't make graphics. I was trying to go fast, but they're 14, not 13, as Maryland will take on CMU.
Yeah, Central Michigan. I remember they were a bit chatty about Akron Gold to start the season out there in their conference, but being here is a big win for them. But what they're going to need is an even bigger win against Maryland to make it further. We've seen crazier things happen, but Central Michigan just has not put the tape out for me to call them a Cinderella in this portion of the bracket. But we'll see. Crazier things have happened.
Yeah, I mean, again, crazier things have happened. We've watched Maryland survive multiple Game 7s in the opening rounds of these tournaments before. I mean, heck, North Carolina almost upset them 2 seasons ago in the spring, I believe, in the opening round. So anything can happen. But again, that's a really good roster. They added Cozy P this fall. They're looking really scary. They obviously did lose the semifinals, which dropped their seed from what probably would have been a very high 2, if not a 1 in the back end. But moving forward, number 6, Georgia State will join the field of 64 in the opening round. Here's the 6th seed.
Hey man, Georgia State. Them losing to James Madison. I feel like every season it goes back and forth between JMU and Georgia State. Now no longer the Buds. They'll always be the Buds in my heart. But Georgia State, glad to see them here as a 6th seed. They've had one heck of a season, and I'm glad that the loss to JMU did not drop them in their seeding here in the Midwest, and they still get to grab one of these upper seeds and have their best shot going forward.
That's a good roster. I mean, Monk has been in this tournament multiple times now. I think this is their 4th appearance or 3rd appearance potentially here. So they've made it for sure twice. I think this is either 3 or 4. They made it back with Dylan for the first time last fall, I believe, and then Dylan transferred. But again, really good Georgia State roster. They could knock off Maryland in the second round. I wouldn't put it past the capabilities of that roster. So they'll take on a 4-time Summit League champion, St. Thomas, as the 11th seed.
St. Thomas, they were a surprise to me. I believe spring of last year. I didn't really pay too close of attention to the conference that they played in, and they came out and they surprised me with what they were able to put up. I think that they're going to be a challenge for Georgia State in round 1. And if Georgia State is able to get past that first hurdle, again, playing with momentum, grabbing a first round win is always huge for these seeds going into a second round against a juggernaut. So if you are to go and play Maryland, either way, if you're St. Thomas or Georgia State, a win here is going to build great momentum going forward into that next round. But I still think that with how Georgia State is currently playing, they're going to shake off that loss to JMU and take it as like a little bit of a chip on their shoulder and want to grab this round 1. They're going to have a little bit of fire behind them.
Absolutely, I'm excited. I mean, this is a really good bracket. It's the toughest region in the entire tournament, so it's going to be a region to keep your eye on as the matches start to get underway. Moving forward, though, to the South region, starting off at number 1. 4th overall, bottom left side of the bracket, it's the South Carolina Gamecocks, SEC tournament champions for a 2nd straight season.
Yeah, again, consistency here out of South Carolina is what's getting them to this point, getting the 1 seed, like you said, number 4 overall. The SEC started out as one of the most competitive, one of the deepest outside of the Big Ten, I would say, in terms of conferences. And it started to falter towards the latter part, but they still came out and absolutely dominated against some stout competition. So them very much deserving of a 1 seed.
They got a lot of help down the stretch, too. A lot of teams around the back end of the 1, early 2, lost in their conference championship game, which also helped South Carolina move up into that last 1 spot. But moving forward, they'll take on number 16, Eastern Kentucky, from the Atlantic Sun tournament champion.
Yeah, again, not much. Just a lot of these 1 versus 16. It's you've had one heck of a season, but now you have to go take a juggernaut down. Eastern Kentucky going to definitely have their hands full here against South Carolina.
They're going to have their work cut out for them, that's for sure. As the Colonels will take on the Gamecocks this week, we'll see if there's any fight in the Cardinals here again. Well, they were very confident in their post game interview after winning the Atlantic Sun tournament that they're going to go after this tournament and do some damage. So we'll see if they can play South Carolina close, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we will have to wait and see. Again, first round always rife with drama, so we'll see if Eastern Kentucky is able to add to it.
Well, number 8 in the South is San Jose State, as the Spartans join the field number 8, their second all-time appearance at the CCS championships.
A big time riser out of the Mountain West as well. I didn't really have San Jose State on my radar at all going into the season. They had a really strong start. Then the loss to San Diego State kind of was the pivot point on their season. It took a little bit of a downturn, but they've had to bounce back here to grab the 8th seed.
We talked a lot earlier about Drexel and how they saved their season. You want to talk about saving your season? Let's talk about the Lumberjacks. Northern Arizona at number 9 have played their way back into the tournament after an 0-5 start and won the conference tournament and saved their season.
Yeah, NAU was one of the more disappointing teams to start off the season. I remember we had them ranked, I believe, in the top 20 at the very least. Yeah, so they came in as we were pretty high on them going into this one, but they came out and it was just kind of disappointment after disappointment for the Lumberjacks. But like you said, they saved their season by having the run that they did to wrap things up. And now they do have a very winnable opponent. Again, when we see the 8 versus 9, they are very close matchups, but I think that this one actually might be slightly in the favor of NAU just with the hot streak that they're currently on.
Yeah, I think, with the momentum that's obviously built up around NAU now at this point, going through that roster change and getting the roster adjusted, I like them in the opening round. But again, they played right into what should be South Carolina. That's a tough one. I see around a 32 exit at best. I think South Carolina is going to run through the table here again.
Yeah, I think that South Carolina, through their little portion of the bracket, they're not going to see really any resistance until at most the round of 16, possibly. But I think definitely quarterfinals is where we'll see South Carolina start to sweat. So Northern Arizona, if you're able to make some magic happen, shout out. I would love to see it. But yeah, again, they're gonna have to not just continue but build on this momentum if they're gonna want to go anything further than the round of 32.
Well, at number 4 in the South, from Knoxville, Tennessee, it's the Volunteers of Tennessee at 4 in the opening round. Will take on number 13 Florida Atlantic.
UTK, I'm never gonna sleep on them. Hung and Jeezy, Joe Bro still playing. There's a lot of mechanics flying around the field, a lot of pace with this Tennessee roster. FAU, they don't really strike me as a team that can handle speed, and that's kind of the MO for UTK is they throw a bunch of mechanics and boost starving at you. FAU is going to have a really tough time trying to get past Tennessee in this round 1.
The first appearance all time for FAU. I think it is the third or fourth for Tennessee. So again, experience is a big factor here for the Volunteers. I think they get through this opening round fairly convincingly. But again, as we know, anything can happen. But I do think Tennessee will at least win this opening round of 64. Moving forward at number 5, a team that was Cinderella in the summer. It's number 5, Winthrop.
Winthrop has been on such a huge rise. I'm not going to lie, starting off the season, I was a little bit of a hater. I think that we had them at 19 to start the season. I said that's way too high. They had that one win in the summer against UNC Charlotte, who was not locked in whatsoever. They weren't scrimming, and I had a lot of copium behind it. But Winthrop has continued to show me that I'm wrong, and they are a quality roster. Phantom is even getting reps elsewhere in other leagues with Percy and T. Crow being the Garrett G stand-in. So having the vouch from the program to believe in a player like Phantom to step up onto the main team and take those reps and get wins as well against top opponents in the nation, Winthrop is going to be a scary team going forward. And I said it, I think that USC doesn't really see much resistance until maybe the round of 16. If Winthrop gets there, and if Winthrop is performing like how I know they can, I think that could be where South Carolina gets an upset. But again, it's going to be a lot.
Yeah, they had a really good run in the summer, but again, anything can happen. And again, they're good, but this tournament field is difficult to see. And a lot of teams did a lot of justice for their programs by winning their conference tournaments and performing at a high level against good teams that were ranked very high. So it boosted their seeding as well. So it's tough to see this, obviously, but again, as anything can happen. The number doesn't matter at the end of the day. If you care about the number, you've got all the wrong problems. But if they're going to take on number 12, Central Florida from the Big 12.
I really like the Central Florida team. I really do. However, again, with how Winthrop has been playing, with how Winthrop looks and the matchup on paper, Central Florida is going to need to do a lot to get past Winthrop in this round one.
It's a tall order. I mean, they're going to have their hands full, their work cut out for them. But again, they're probably looking at around a 64 exit dead in the eyes. But I would be stunned if UCF pull it off. But I don't see it happening. But that is a good team. But Winthrop is a marginal difference better. But we'll wait and see. That's why these games are played, and that's why we're all excited to be here and watch.
Absolutely, we'll have to wait and see if UCF can be one of the many potential upsets here in the first round.
Moving forward at 2 is Florida and the South, the Gators. Back in the tournament after a round of 32 exit, the first 1 seed to lose prior to the Elite 8 in CCS history after last season's stunning upset from NIU, receives a 2 this fall.
Now I'm going to spread a little Florida propaganda here. I was just at DreamHack Atlanta. Florida made a top 2. They only lost to West Virginia, and as much as I love the West Virginia that's currently playing in CCS, this is the West Virginia varsity team. This is Gyro, Angel, and Matt. This is currently the number 2 team in CRL league play. This is currently one of the best teams in the nation that played against Florida, who was the number 14 out of 16 teams. Florida is on a hot streak right now. Florida is going to be, I think, a favorite to make it, honestly, probably to the semifinals. It might be just the want for another storyline of Florida versus Akron Gold, like what we saw at DreamHack not once but twice, to get that rematch to see if we're now in Akron stomping grounds, if that result remains the same between these two. But I think Florida really is, they're finding a stride. They look so much more cohesive. Seeing the chemistry that they have on land and seeing how they've been able to gel from the summer where they were upset by NIU to now is absolutely insane. So I'm looking forward to this Florida team. I think that they're going to be a lot better than a lot of people kind of estimate them to be.
And this team has a high ceiling, obviously, and Hammy Crackers can play hero ball and carry this team on his back if he has to. And I think that last series with NIU last season, that was their first series playing with SAP after K Frost left the program. And, again, that upset happened, and it's probably the biggest upset in CCS history to date right now. But, again, that was a stunning loss. That shouldn't have happened. But Florida has bounced back. They've got this program going the right way. They're coming off a top 2 at DreamHack. They're taking down top teams in the country like it's no problem. So they are very scary, and there's a very good chance they make a deep run here. So they're going to take on 15-seeded Nebraska. The Cornhuskers are back for a third time.
And any other season, if this was your regular run-of-the-mill Florida, I would say that Nebraska has a chance to pull off a big upset. But with how Florida looks, the form that they're in, this is going to be a very tough test ahead for Nebraska. I would be happy to see this one go longer than 5 if Nebraska can take it there. But again, I think Florida is just on too hot of a streak. They finally found their stride. They found their rhythm. They found their chemistry. Florida is going to be the favorite out of this portion of the bracket.
Yeah, Nebraska, suffered a very early exit in the conference tournament. They were upset by number 14 Washington. So again, they dropped their seed in hopes of the tournament very, very low. They thought they were out, but they did end up getting in as a 15 seed. They'll take on Florida to kick off the 2-15 game in the South region. Moving forward at 7 is Utah from the Big 12.
Utah always seemingly now a staple here for the championship, and they're going to have their work cut out for them in this round 1. They're going to be facing an opponent that did cause a round 1 upset and looked very good in the summer in the round of 32 with the condensed format. But Utah, no surprise here being at 7.
And you mentioned the upset at number 10, and that is Sacramento State. The Hornets will take on Utah in the opening round. That should be a good game. I mean, again, it's probably 6 games at worst. I'd say 6 to 7 games here in that series. I think they're going to go the distance. That's a very good series on paper, at least.
Yeah, on paper, it's a really good matchup. And again, I think that Sacramento State is one of these like potential upset round ones. There's been a handful already, but with how they looked over the summer and how they've looked so far this season, Sacramento State can do some damage to Utah here and knock them out in the first round.
That's what you want as a viewer. You want these upsets to happen, but again, Utah hasn't had much success at the championships in the past, and this might be a good shot to get a tournament win for the first time ever. But then you play right into Florida. That's tough, obviously. But moving along, Arizona State at 3-8-7-1 in the Big 12, a Big 12 semifinal appearance. They were also brought down by Colorado, who went on that Cinderella run. But they're at 3 here. I like the seeding. I like this spot for the Sun Devils. I think they've got a chance to play pretty deep here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this could be your potential round of 16 against Florida. Arizona State, it seems like they just always know when to perform. And here I don't see really. I see them having a bounce back in the round of 32 and really no issue with their opponent here in the round 1.
Yeah, that's number 14, UT Arlington. At 14, the Mavericks, after a semifinal exit in the WAC conference tournament to Southern Utah. They are a 14. They'll take on Arizona State this week in the round of 64.
UTA has been kind of on a downtrend, and I hope that they're able to pull things through and turn things around, but it's going to be very tough for them going into this round 1, trying to turn things around this quickly, and having to play Arizona State. It's going to be very tough for them.
It's tough, but you do it to yourself. Losing early in the conference tournament, losing games you shouldn't lose. I mean, there's so many ways you can hurt your seeding in CCS, and making one bad mark can ruin a chance of a long run. So you gotta be poised and disciplined the entire season to avoid a situation like UTA found themselves in. But at number 6, we talked a lot about them earlier in the pre-show. It's Colorado.
Yeah, again, Colorado, they've been on an upswing. This is a very good roster, and for this being kind of their introductory period here for CCS, announcing themselves back into the competition, a conference or a national championship appearance is great for them. And again, I think that they should handle their round 1 pretty easily, but Arizona State is going to be looking for revenge here in round of 32.
Was at 11, led by Turinturo. It's UTSA back for a second time in program history. They'll take on the Buffaloes in their first round of 64. Could have a rematch with ASU in Colorado next weekend.
Yeah, I honestly think that even with Turinturo, we will be seeing the Sun Devils take the Buffaloes on in the round of 32. UTSA, they're gonna need to get a lot done to take down Colorado right now with how they're playing.
Absolutely, but again, you look at this region, it's stacked. A lot of West Coast teams, due to various seeding issues and not having someone necessarily that fits the region, but again, it's also by seed order, and there's certain rules on bracketing this tournament that we have to follow. So again, it's tough to do, but again, this is a pretty good region. I like a lot of teams here in terms of chances to go on a run. I mean, you look at Utah and what they could do, but Florida, again, they look very good. Colorado's scary. I wouldn't be shocked if we're going to watch Florida take on Colorado in the Sweet 16 next weekend.
Yeah, very much could happen. Again, I like the way Colorado is looking right now. They're on a bit of a hot streak, and we all know what momentum can do for a team. So whether it's Arizona State, whether it's Colorado, whether UTA or UTSA can cause an upset, it's going to be a great round against Florida. But let's move on to the West region, and let's see who we kick things off with.
Well, at 1, it's none other than San Diego State, looking good to go back to the national title game for a second straight season after falling in 4 to Akron last go around. They're number 1 again for a second straight season. Can the Aztecs make another deep run?
I think that they should. I see maybe 2 teams in their current region that could cause them concern, but they won't have to face them till quarterfinals. I think that they are definitely one of the favorites here to make a top 4.
Yeah, and again, second question, chat. Dio, that's just your conference tournament. Your seeding is based off the entirety of your season. So again, every single game is just as important as that conference tournament championship game was. Moving forward, SCSU take on a 3 seed from the Southland tournament, the Lamar Cardinals, in their first season at CCS. Our tournament bound will take on the Aztecs in round 1.
Lamar has been getting a lot of love from CCS on the CCS socials, and getting a lot of love from their fans. And I'm going to be interested to see how they come out and perform against San Diego State. Again, the San Diego State is going to be a favorite to be the top 4. Your great season has led you to now have to play one of the tournament favorites. So we'll get to see what Lamar has in store for us.
Tall order for the Cardinals, and as Hood Mexican, the Rock League Texas community leader would say Peckham, but I don't see much of a chance that Lamar can pull off what would be a stunning upset. As number 8 in this West region is the Sooners of Oklahoma.
Oklahoma had a really great regular season. They had some wins that, looking back on it, they don't account for much, but they are wins nonetheless. And I think they do have a solid quality roster behind them. So Oklahoma, they very much deserved being here, coming out of the SEC. Again, a very deep conference in the SEC. So them having the season they've had so far, find themselves here in the West.
Well, at number 9, the Sooners will take on Grand Canyon in the opening round. I like this matchup on paper. I think I like the Sooners to win it, but Grand Canyon is good. They've gone through some roster changes a couple weeks ago. And again, I think that roster on paper, that roster change negatively impacted their season. They suffered a couple losses late, had an early conference tournament exit, hence dropping their seed a little bit to what probably would have been a round of 5 or a 6 for the Antelopes. Now they're a 9, taking on Oklahoma in the opening round.
Yeah, I really like this. Like you said, on paper, it should be a good matchup. Grand Canyon, they've had an up and down season. I think that the teams that have had up and down seasons, they're on the uptrend now, obviously, by making it here. But now it's, can you still make good on the trend that we're seeing here? And them versus Oklahoma is going to be a good test to see kind of where they're at. If that was just kind of a, hey, we did well enough to make it here, or if, hey, we're actually back to GCU form.
It's kind of the same boat as NAU in Colorado. You had a rough start, but you finished strong and were awarded a spot in the national championship bracket. As we move forward, you want to talk about saving the season again. Look at Illinois, the run they had in the Big Ten tournament, from a 5 seed straight to the Big Ten tournament final. Lost it to Purdue, but they were seed before, and they played their way into a top 16 seed.
Yeah, Illinois is a very good quality roster as well. Their season was disappointing to say the least, but like you said, they saved it at the 11th hour. They came in, they clutched up, and they went on a run to earn them this 4 seed. And I think that they are going to be a formidable opponent going forward. I honestly like their chances to make it through to a top 16, but they'll have to, again, show us that it's not just on paper, they're on the uptrend, that it's actually translating into results on the pitch.
What 13? It is the Bulldogs of Mississippi State, their first tournament appearance in program history here for Mississippi State. They'll take on Illinois in the round of 64.
And this should be a pretty easy opening round for Illinois. No disrespect to Mississippi State, but again, Illinois on paper, their roster is just a different level. And they're going to need to grab this win. And with the momentum that they've built through their conference championship run, or conference playoff run rather, Mississippi State is going to have a lot on their plate in this round 1.
I mean, a lot of the power conferences got a lot of teams into the field of 64 this go around, Somber. So a lot of Power 5 school representation as we move forward, and yet another Power 5 upcoming. As number 5, it's Missouri, the Tigers from the SEC at number 5.
And again, Mizzou, now without Bubs, this team has a good roster. They do. I want to reiterate that I feel like a lot of people wrote this team off immediately once Bubs made their retirement tweet and said they're done with competitive Rocket League. Missouri still has a quality roster behind them. Now, are they still a favorite to make the top 4? Probably not. But this Missouri team, they're going to be wanting to finish as strongly as possible, add to that resume when they do, or if they do look to recruit. And if they don't, this is going to be valuable reps to get your chemistry up with your new third. You're looking to just go as far as you can, make some magic happen, and ride this momentum through.
Yeah, again, this tournament's cutthroat. It's tough to win in, and Missouri's going to take on number 12 Air Force, and they lost Bubs, and they lost 2 straight to South Carolina and Tennessee on the same night. Back-to-back losses for the Tigers, and dropped in the SEC quarterfinal or semifinal, sorry, to I believe South Carolina again in 6, and things just didn't go the Tigers' way as they had hoped for this season. But again, a 5 seed is still respectable, and they've got a chance to make a run.
Yeah, and don't want to count out Air Force either. They're going to make things tough for Mizzou here. Air Force is a formidable opponent out of the Mountain West, but I still like Missouri's chances here. Again, I think that they're going to be a top 16, but making anything further than that, that will be where the true test lies.
Absolutely. And moving forward down to the bottom side at 2 in the West, it is Wichita State at number 2. The Shockers back for a 4th time at the championships, receive a 2.
Wichita State, again, they're a very interesting team. With playing with kind of a mishmash roster. They're playing with some varsity guys, some JV guys. They're getting people reps. I'm going to be looking forward to a massive lock-in here, because while they've had a very good season up until now, elsewhere they've left things to be desired, and I'm hoping that this is our other or a top 4 potential here, as they have a chance to take on SDSU if all things go right in the quarterfinals. Wichita State might be able to go on a little bit of a redemption and kind of hey, ball so far hasn't been that great for us, but we're making it top 4. We're making good on the projections that we initially had on this team.
Yeah, I mean, again, they had national title hopes at the start of the season, alongside adding Knight to this roster. They're scary. If Knight does play in this tournament, that's again, they're a team to look out for and be scared of if you are in this region or just in general trying to win a national title. They're going to take on number 15 CSU Northridge, Big West tournament champions. At 15, they'll take on Wichita State.
Yeah, again, you're going up against 2 seed CSU Northridge. They had a very interesting game, probably one of the funniest games in CCS history, against Cleveland State at the beginning of the season. Outside of that, they haven't really they've done enough to make me feel like they do deserve this position and to be in this round 1 and to be in the top 64. However, playing against Wichita State, there's nothing really here on their resume that makes me think that they're going to be a Cinderella team.
Yeah, this is their second trip to the tournament. They suffered a round 1 exit to Michigan State last spring. So, things didn't go well the last time around. We'll see if things go well this time, as Cal Poly got the bid last summer. So their second trip here for the Matadors as we move forward at 7, the Cougars of Washington State.
Washington State, I feel like they're another staple team here. Taking SDSU to 7 was probably one of the more interesting results this entire season. The runners up out of the Mountain West, they were not on my radar whatsoever. I thought that your Air Force or your San Jose State would have been runners up, but they came out, and again, they had a lock-in here to wrap out the season, and I'm going to be very much looking forward to seeing them, and if they could pose a challenge to Wichita State and possibly cause an upset there in the next round.
Yeah, I mean, again, you look at number 10, Weber State, who went undefeated in the regular season and then lost their first conference tournament game to, I believe it was Northern Arizona. So you could look at the Wildcats to pull the upset here in the 10-7 game. But again, Wazoo's really good. And I talked to Venom a couple nights ago, and he's confident in this team and their ability to go on a run. But again, you play right into what should be Wichita State. So it's tough to play, in this tournament, obviously. And I think Weber State has it in them to pull the upset if it, to play for a chance to get the upset. I don't know if it's going to happen, but they've got a chance to do it.
Yeah, I definitely think that they could cause, this to go 6 games and be very sweaty for Wazoo. But again, I think that Wazoo, they've just had too much of a turnaround into their season. They had a little bit of a disappointing start. I think after week 3 or 4, or the halfway point, they were just outside of the playoff race, or they were a very low seed. But they were able to turn things around late season, turn things around in the conference championship. Obviously, taking SDSU to 7, almost made it here as an automatic bid as well. But yeah, I like the odds for this one to be a nervy, interesting round 1 here.
That's the closest Mountain West Conference tournament final that San Diego State's ever played. They've always dominated. They've won 6 straight Mountain West Conference tournament titles. So again, they've never even been played close in any of those contests until this season, in which Washington State took them to 7. That got a little scary towards the end. I wasn't on the call for it, but it looked very close and very scary at times for the Aztecs. But moving forward, at number 3, the Wildcats of Arizona, another team from the Big 12.
Yeah, Big 12 and Big 10 getting a lot of representation here. And I think that's a testament to how, SEC too. All 3 of those, the 3 deepest conferences, a lot of competition. Arizona, again, I think that at the start of the season, I would have projected them to be here. This is exactly the type of season that I expected Arizona to have.
Yeah, 14-1 effort, or 14-2 effort out of Arizona this fall. They're awarded a high seed because of that. I mean, 8-0 in league play, 3-1 in the conference tournament, 1-1 in your non-conference. So I guess 12-2, not 14-2, but still really, really good stuff from the Wildcats. They're at 3, taking on number 14 on their Big 10 school, UCLA, a former Pac-12 matchup here in the round of 64.
Yeah, and this itches a nice part in my brain. Being a Pac-12 guy, I love seeing Arizona versus UCLA. UCLA was a surprise team for me this season, but I'm glad to see them here in the round of 64.
And again, this seeding is not based off the result of one game. It is the entire season resume put together, not the result of one game. So again, if you're going to complain about seeding, you can miss me with that. It's based off the entire season. But number 4, it is California, the Golden Bears, and that seed is wrong. Or no, that's 6. I'm reading my sheet wrong. They're number 6. That's correct. California is a 6 seed here.
6 seed Cal. Cal is definitely a team that, as a 6th seed, surprises me. But with the season that they had, I understand it. I just think that they're going to have their work cut out for them here in the first round.
It's at number 11, too. They don't have Duro, but it is Louisiana at 11. It's still a good team, but it's not the same firepower as they once had with Duro. He'll be back in the spring. So I still expect Lost and company to play Cal close, but I'm not sure they have the firepower to hang with the prowess of the California offense. So we've gotten to watch a lot this season.
Yeah, again, with the Juro, Louisiana is a very defensive heavy team, and I would like this matchup, but you're missing out on the capabilities that Juro brings to this roster. Louisiana still going to be able to make this one a tough one. I like their odds at causing an upset, but like you said, I think that Cal is just going to come out and they're going to put too much pressure on this Louisiana team, and if I'm able to find a way to combat that, they should be good to go for the round of 32. But I think that right now, Cal on paper is the favorite to make it out.
Yeah, and you need to look forward to, obviously, this game. I think it's going to be one of the best games of the round of 64, obviously. And I think you look for Lost's offensive capabilities and, Jackson's third man defensive play. Sal, if he can be clean defensively and, keep California off of the boards and picking up second chance rebounds, then I think they've got a shot to pull the upset. I really do. And you trickle in their new third for replacing Juro. If he can get it done in transition, then I think they've got a chance to win. But moving forward down to our final region of the bracket, 16 more teams to be revealed. Starting off at number 1, the 49ers of Charlotte, coming off an American Conference Tournament championship for the second time in program history, knocking off number 2, Wichita State overall in the country. They're number 1.
Yeah, this does not surprise me. I think that it was kind of a 2-team race between Charlotte and Wichita from the jump. It ended up becoming that way anyways, and Charlotte coming out here handling business, getting that 1 seed.
At 16, the Virginia Killers, UMBC at 16 will take on Charlotte. Again,
UMBC, congratulations on the season you've had up until this point. You're going to have your hands full with number 1 overall Charlotte. They've had their moments of mortality. They've shown that they're human. They've taken a step back in some series, but overall, they're still the same Charlotte team that we've come to know and love, and they're going to be a tough round 1 opponent for UMBC. Again, I think that Charlotte right now with their current run of things is basically a lock for at a minimum of the round of 16.
And this is a Charlotte team, don't forget, that knocked off San Diego State back in the Nightlights Invitational in week 1. So, again,
Mm-hmm.
they are very good. They picked off Maryland and San Diego State, two very big wins for the 49ers, moving forward to the 8th seed. It's Pittsburgh from the ACC at 8.
Love me some Pittsburgh. Love me some Pittsburgh Rocket League. I think that this is just the unfortunate run of you have a tough round one opponent, and if you do somehow leg it out past them, you have to go play what is more than likely going to be Charlotte. So Pittsburgh going to have their work cut out for them, not just in round 1, but if they make it further than that as well.
Well, they've got their hands full in the opening round. It's number 9, Kennesaw State, in the championship for the first time in program history, led by Dylan. We'll see if the Owls can make a run as we'll take on Pitt in the opening round.
Yeah, and I do believe also have TNT listed as a sub. So who knows if they pull out some shenanigans and throw TNT into the mix. But Kennesaw State, even without that factor coming into play, just having Dylan and the boys over for Kennesaw, the team that we've seen all season, that's going to be a very tough round 1 here for Pittsburgh. And honestly, I like Kennesaw's odds to make it into the round of 32.
I like their odds too. I watched LA Tech, struggle with some lag, but I think they've got it in them to pull out the win. But we'll have to wait and see, as these games have to be played. Obviously, you can't just say someone's gonna win. That's why we play the games, to see what happens. But moving forward at 4, Virginia Tech, the Hokies at 4, their highest seed ever received.
And deservedly so. Virginia Tech, they have had quite the season. I know that, I believe during the summer they had at least a little bit lackluster compared to the spring, but they've had a good season and a good bounce back. Virginia Tech, I really like them as a team to go face off against Charlotte, and that would be a matchup that I am very keen to see, very interested in seeing go down. But you do have to get past your round 1 opponent, which is going to be not the toughest, but also not the easiest. They're going up against a team that can cause a lot of upset.
Yeah, and the image actually isn't loading, so hold on while I fix it here. But there were
Suspense.
technical difficulties earlier prior to the broadcast. Okay, I put the wrong one in. Here we go. It's Old Dominion at 13, an in-state battle there with the Hokies of Virginia Tech. They'll take on Old Dominion in the opening round in the 4-13 game.
ODU could cause some upset here. I'm not going to lie, but Virginia Tech, I think that they're just too solid of a roster right now. They've shown too much consistency for me to think that ODU is like a contender, but I think that they will at the very least be a challenger. I could see this going 5 or 6 games and being a really tough round 1 for Virginia Tech to move forward, but it will be a great first round for Virginia Tech going forward, given the competition above them.
They're going to have their hands full, obviously. It's a tough bracket. I mean, Charlotte in the 3rd round is going to be tough if they both advance that far even. We'll have to wait and see, as number 5, James Madison, will take on 12 NC State to close out the top of the East region in a 5-12 game where the Wolfpack has picked off Virginia Tech already once this season. They looked poised down the stretch. Maybe they stand a chance to knock off JMU.
Yeah, they definitely do. This is going to be a really good matchup of the dynamic freshmen. I'll put it that way. JMU coming in with a pigeon replacement, someone who has not played a lot of competitive Rocket League, coming in with Tyler. Right?
Yeah, Tyler ability and
Yeah,
Gad
Tyler.
Is that right?
No, they have a freshman on their roster now. I'm so sorry.
I can't remember the dude's name either.
JMU is always just Gad ability Tyler to me. But we'll see here in just a second. Fright, thank you.
Yeah,
I was
Fright,
thinking Skell, but
yeah.
Skell is part of like their Valorant team or something. Anyways, JMU, Fright is one of the most dynamic freshmen in all of Collegiate Rocket League. NC State Rocket has been that dude for them as well as a freshman. Both these teams seemingly just get better week after week. This is going to be a really great round 1. And like you said, NC State has already taken down Virginia Tech once. If they're able to take down JMU, who says they can't do it again?
That one's a game 7 too, so we'll have to wait and see how things shake out for the Wolfpack. Their first tournament appearance ever as well for NC State, so good on them. As number 2 starts off in the East, it's Ball State at 2 here in the East region. The Cardinals receiving a 2 seed, their second all-time appearance. Both times are a 2 seed.
Yeah, and I mean, deservedly so. This new roster is even better than what we saw with Ball State last season. They at times seem like the only team that can make Akron Gold seem human, but Akron Gold also just kind of handles that matchup with ease, despite the improvements on the roster. But we'll get to see here again. I think that right now Ball State is at the very least not going to have really much challenge until the round of 16, and should be a fairly I'll say a top 8 kind of almost guarantee here, unless they have an absolutely monumental collapse in the round of 16.
Well, in the round of 64, they're going to take on Quinnipiac out of the MAC Conference Tournament champion. The Bobcats, yeah, will take on Ball State. In the 2-15 game, I don't see this being much of an issue for Ball State this week. They should have it rounded up pretty easily in 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think so as well. Quinnipiac, I again love the roster, but I think that Ball State is going to be too big of a challenge for them here in round 1.
I would agree, but at 7 is Northeastern in the East. Will take on 10-seeded Utah Valley that couldn't go to the West region due to a conference matchup occurring in the opening round, so they had to go elsewhere. They're going to go to the East to take on Northeastern.
Yeah, always love when we get to these types of reveals where we're putting Utah in the East, and because we're trying to make all the puzzle pieces fit here. So sometimes there's going to be some things out of place. However, again, Northeastern, I think that this is a pretty cut and dry. Utah Valley might be able to take them to 5, but this should be a pretty easy win for Northeastern.
Yes, Drexel is also on the 10 line, so Drexel couldn't go to the East because they take on Northeastern, which would be a conference matchup, which is not allowed in the opening round. So someone else had to go to the East region. I think all 3 other 10 seeds were West Coast teams, so someone had to go play in the East. That was going to be Utah Valley here, as the 3 seed in the East is Syracuse after a drop-off in the ACC tournament semifinal, are rewarded with 14-seeded Robert Morris.
Syracuse, this is not the B or not the A team. This is the B team, and they've still had such an impressive season with Gavilon kind of manning up the ship here for the Orange and taking on RMU again. RMU, they've had success elsewhere, and I believe that they do have a top 32 appearance many seasons ago. But now you're taking on Syracuse. I think that this is going to be another pretty cut and dry, kind of like the Northeastern Utah Valley. I think that this is a pretty easy 4-0, if at most a 4-1 here for Syracuse.
This is Robert Morris' second appearance. They do not have any tournament wins. This will be their first if they can pick off Syracuse. But at 6, the Connecticut Huskies and the Big East tournament champions will take on our last team in the field, which I'm going to be very high on this tournament, is number 11, SIU Edwardsville, Ohio Valley Conference champions, and they are the first time ever here at the championships. I'm very high. I think they're going to pull off a couple runs.
I think they could as well. UConn is a team that, they have some bite to them, but they aren't a team that I see making a deep run here. And SIU Edwardsville, they could cause an upset. They could be one of our potential Cinderellas for the bracket here. So I'm going to be interested to keep my eyes on this matchup going forward.
Yeah, I think they are my Cinderella pick. I like that team a lot. Their offense is really good. I think they've got a chance to knock off Connecticut and heck even beat Syracuse. But we'll wait and see as we take a look at our last 4 teams in the field and our first 4 teams out. As I need to get this graphic fixed again here in a second, as long as I'm sitting here yapping. But there we go. All right, our last 4 teams in: Central Michigan, UTA, Nebraska, and UC Santa Barbara. And our first 4 teams out were Villanova, Cal Baptist, A&M, and Southeast Missouri State.
Honestly, I know last season I had a couple issues with last 4 in, first 4 out, but I think that all of these, outside of maybe if you weren't keeping tabs on the season overall, seeing Texas A&M there, especially with how they played last season, seeing them here in the first 4 out, you would say, hey, why do they not get a bid? Texas A&M had a very disappointing season this go around. I think that outside of UCSB, but given their runner-up status, makes sense that they're in as well. But everything else, kind of just business as usual here. I like the picks.
Yeah, when I first submitted my seed list to the committee last night, I had Villanova and Cal Baptist in the field, and I had Air Force left out, and I don't remember who else I had replaced Cal Baptist in with, but um, it's tough to get to that point where you have to make the cut line occur and knock out a couple teams that probably should have made the tournament. I kind of thought after watching UConn play Villanova 3 times this season, where all 3 times it was a sweep, that really hurt Villanova's chances. But I still thought that they were going to find a way in, and unfortunately, they were the first team out of the field. But it happens, and I'm hoping to see Villanova come back this spring with a vengeance and to find a way to get back into the tournament.
Yeah, we'll see. But in front of us, we got our 64, and I honestly could not be happier with a lot of these matchups. I think that this is going to be kind of right on par for what the season has been, which is one of the most competitive round ones we've seen to date.
Yeah, it's not the best graphic in the world because I made it, so don't come scream at me. But it's a general overview of what the bracket will look like on the spreadsheet later tonight. But I'm excited. It's always fun to be here and watch these games happen. But nonetheless, I mean, you look at these matchups, and Maryland, Central Michigan could get interesting. Texas Tech, Drexel is going to be a game to watch. Clemson, UNCW is going to be fun. Indiana, North Carolina, LA Tech, NIU will be a lot of fun. That West Coast State 9, San Jose State, NAU should be a lot of fun. The Utah Sacramento State game should be amazing. The Connecticut SIUE game is entertaining. There's a lot of really good games here. Arizona, UCLA, Cal, Louisiana. I mean, Pittsburgh, Kennesaw, Wazoo, Weaver State. Tons of good action in the round of 64.
Absolutely. It's going to be very entertaining. A lot of can't miss Rocket League, and I cannot wait for this season's national championship.
There's going to be no games tomorrow. We'll get down to the round of 64 action beginning on Wednesday, running through next week, Tuesday. The round of 64, followed by that Friday afternoon from 3 to 6 Eastern. You'll see the round of 32, followed by the round of 16 and quarterfinals on Saturday from 3 to 6 Eastern. And then from 4 to 6 Eastern Sunday, you'll see the Final Four in the championship game. So, again, a lot of Rocket League coming up here in CCS. Thanks for tuning in and joining us. But until next time, we'll see y'all back for the round of 64.